What's up? So in this particular lesson we'll be talking about chapter 13 and chapter 16. These are the small chapters, so I thought I'll take them first, and then in part 8 we'll be dealing with chapter 14, and in part 9 we'll be dealing with chapter 15. This is presented by me, Dr. Roman Saini. And if you feel that these courses are helping in any way, you can click on the contribute button and leave a voluntary fee, and you can also follow me on Unacademy on unacademy.in/user/Roman Saini. So chapter 13 deals with fun with magnet. That is the title of the chapter. Now what is a magnet? Now any object which produces a magnetic field is a magnet. That's it. It attracts iron. There are lots of other materials which it attracts, but for now on we'll restrict our discussion to it. For example, you might have seen in a factory that there is a crane. When electricity is passed through it, it converts into a magnet, and then it ends up picking up heap of iron junks, cars, etc. And that's how we know that it is a magnet. How does the story goes? Magnus was a guy in ancient Greece in a place called Magnesia, and when he was going through his rod, so he hit something and it is just stick, and the ore, which was rich in like iron, and it was magnetic in property, it was called magnetite. So because of these three reasons, that is why we call the substance magnet. Now obviously you cannot see a magnetic field surrounding a magnet because it is invisible to the naked eye. However, you can detect it by certain measures. Now materials which are not attracted to the magnets are obviously called as non-magnetic. Cool. Now let's talk about interaction. So when we talk about interaction, they can be ferromagnetic, paramagnetic, diamagnetic, ferrimagnetic, antiferromagnetic. Obviously this is not required for UPSC purposes and specifically for 6th class NCERT, so we will not deal with it. Now those objects which get attracted to magnets are called magnetic substance. Example most common is ferromagnetic substance. Example Faconi. Faconi is iron, cobalt and nickel. Lodestone is another example, and few alloys of rare earth metals and magnet. So obviously magnet will get attracted to magnet, no doubt about it. Now shape of the bar magnet can be a bar magnet like this. It can be a horseshoe magnet like this. It can be a cylinder like this, and finally it can be a ball-ended magnet. Like I'll show you some shapes. Now process of making magnets from iron is called as artificial magnet. So you just need to rub it in one direction. Take an iron bar like this and just keep on rubbing it in one direction. Do not rub it in the other direction like this. So if you rub it in one direction, it will form a magnet. Now most of the objects will be attracted towards certain ends, which is called as poles. Now how do you determine? Just freely suspend any bar magnet, which means it is not an influence of any magnetic field. So it will always rest in north-south direction because that is how Earth's magnetic field is aligned. Now you know where sun is, right? At early noon 6, 7, 8 a.m. it is in the east. In the evening at 5, 6, 7 p.m. it is in the west. At 12, 1 it is at your head. Okay, so determining using sun you can determine east or west, but if it is night then obviously you can see north star and you can determine one direction, and then if you suspend it then you can determine all the four directions. That is how the compass works. So north is the north seeking end and south is the south seeking end, obviously, and every magnet has these two ends regardless of the shape of the magnet. So for example, this is the north end, it is marked here. Again this is the north south end. Again now this is a compass. So the marked, as you can see, it is colored, so it is north end. So let's assume like it is 5 o'clock in the evening and the sun is over here, right? So that is how you know that this is the north direction, south direction. So whenever you keep compass, these needles keep on changing, so accordingly you can adjust. You just need one pointer and all the directions will be determined using the compass. Again, as you can see, there is one side which is marked, and when it is freely suspended it is always towards the north. Now compass, as I have already spoken, it is just a needle and you find out its north pole and just paint it. And now it is magnetized needle which is allowed a completely free rotation, because in earlier times sailor did not have GPS and all. So in a small glass box, and it has a dial along with the direction marked on it, and place wherever you want to know the direction. So with the help of like rotate till north and south direction comes exactly opposite to each other, as I have already spoken about it. That's how it is freely suspended because of Earth's magnetic field, and you will now have the direction. You can also use north star, sun, etc., and with the help of compass you can have almost pinpoint direction, and specifically helpful when you do not have 3G internet approximately 500 years ago. So travelers, sailors, they use suspended magnet from a thread, and even till today Navy carry it in case if there is some electronic failure. Now okay, so obviously we can make a temporary magnet by moving bar in one particular direction again and again and again from a particular pole in a particular direction, and we do not need to cross it in the opposite direction, otherwise it will not be formed. Now when it comes to attraction, obviously same poles will repulse each other while different poles will attract each other. It's basic physics. Now if you apply physical pressure, then the loss of magnetism may happen. If you increase the temperature, if you start hammering it, if you drop it from height, or if it is not stored properly, and whenever you store them, store like when unlike poles are on the same side, either they are separated by wood because it is not magnetic, or you can place two soft iron pieces which will preserve the magnetism. And in case of horseshoe magnet, you always keep soft iron across their ends, and you obviously keep away from TV, computers, mobile, CDs, music system. It can damage the equipment as well as it can damage itself, and loss of magnetism may happen. Now obviously a compass can be used to find east-west direction. As I've already spoken, this is a compass, so when it aligns in north-south, so this axis becomes east-west. And how do you know which pole is north or south? So assume this is a like a magnet, so if the north star is here, then it becomes north pole, and if sun is here, like with the help of east-west, you can determine. So this is the chapter 16 of class 6 NCERT. So obviously, you know, a lot of garbage is generated. There is nothing scientific about it, but just go first. Safai Karamcharis are the people who collect the garbage. Segregation means separation of waste, whether it is biodegradable, non-biodegradable. It is best done at source, especially in medical hospitals, but unfortunately it is not done in India that diligently, and it is just usually done before the final disposal. You separate into useful versus non-useful. Some things are not useful. There is something which is do not require any change before using again, versus something which requires changing before using. Now what is a landfill? Landfill is basically a low-lying area, which is an open area where garbage is spread out and then it is covered with soil, and finally cycle repeats again and again till it is full, and finally we convert the land in the form of public parks, etc., but without any construction. Okay, no buildings is allowed, at least for a few decades. Unfortunately, in developing countries, people do construct because of illegal nature of the certain deals, and that's why the building collapses. Now composting is basically, there are certain keywords which leads to production of manure. Rotting is complete and there is no foul smell and provide nutrients to plants. It is also called as green waste or organic waste, and etc. Always avoid burning them, rather convert them into manure, because burning them will generate a lot of carbon dioxide, greenhouse gases, etc., and converting them into manure will save cost of fertilizer, etc. In fact, it is illegal to burn waste, especially dried leaves, in European countries, USA, because burning generates smokes, poisonous gases, dust particles, etc. Now what is vermicomposting? Vermi means worms, compost means, as I've already spoken, manure formation process. Now earthworm is also called as farmer's friend, and a specific type of earthworm is called as redworms. Now grinding of food happens in the gizzard of earthworm. Gizzard is basically stomach of earthworm. I don't want to go into detail, but just remember this word gizzard. Now redworm can eat equivalent to its own weight daily, and whatever waste come out, it acts as an organic manure. Now left out dried soil like powdery manure is called as vermicompost, as I've already spoken, and it is very good for the growth of the plants. It has all the essential nutrients and they will show amazing growth in this, and basically you get best out of the waste. And also we save a lot of money on harmful chemicals which otherwise would have caused cancers, etc. So you don't need chemical fertilizer and insecticide. Whenever it comes to like sustainable development, you use these words. Reduce means minimize the usage. Reuse means repeat it again and again, don't throw it after one use. Replace means use a sustainable substitute. For example, rather than fuel, you can use solar energy. Recycle means through physical or chemical change, make it usable now. Okay, so let's move forward. Now use plastics judiciously as much as possible. Avoid excessive and unnecessary use, and please don't be ignorant about ways of disposal. People might, like cows might eat it, animals might eat it, and they will die. Now unsuitable and ill-fitted plastic, it should be used for food storage. It can lead to cancer, right? So some people might use it and might lead to cancer. Burning of it leads to highly toxic and poisonous gases, can again lead to respiratory problems, asthma, including cancer. Swallowing by roadside animals can lead to their death, and choking of drain, filling of roads, even semi-flood like condition can happen. So reduce their usage, minimize both the usage as well as garbage generation. Reuse it, replace it with a sustainable substitute, recycle it, and do not use to store food plastic. Don't throw, don't burn plastic. Use vermicomposting to effectively deal with kitchen waste. Garbage disposal is responsibility of government as well as ours. And just remember this one line: be brilliant with the basics, rest all will follow. And in the next two lessons we will be dealing with chapter 14 air and 15 water and air. So thank you for watching this lesson. Have an awesome day. Hey guys, what's up? So this is the part 7 and we will be talking about chapter number 14 of class 6 science NCERT. This is presented by me, Roman Saini. Okay, so let's get started, and if you feel these courses are helping in any way, you can just tap on the contribute button, and like if you feel like they are helping, then you can leave a voluntary contribution. You can also follow me on Unacademy, that is unacademy.in/user/Roman Saini. So first thing first, 6.3 billion people roughly, they have access to safe drinking water, that is 89%, while 750 million people roughly do not have access to safe drinking water, that is 1/9 of the entire humanity. Also 800 million people suffer from hunger. So you can imagine now that the total number which suffers from hunger and water deficiency is quite overlapping. 70% of the earth's surface is covered by water, yet people don't have enough water to drink. So sailors once said that water everywhere, not a drop to drink, because of this saline water. Now in developed countries like USA, water consumption is slightly less. In agriculture it can be 40%, while in countries where jute cultivation and other water intensive crops are being grown, it can be even 90%. On an average it is 70% water which goes to agriculture. Average water consumption per capita daily is roughly 5 to 10,000 liters, but average global water footprint of an individual is 1385 meter cube per year. This is including everything, includes like even making your chocolates. Thousands and thousands of liters of water goes in making a kg of chocolate, so that water is also included here. In India it is 1100 meter cube, in USA it is almost 3000 meter cube, so almost 2.5 to 3 times. Now water usage, apart from these main thing like drinking and agriculture, it goes into toilet flush, generation of power and energy, and showers and bath. So this is the water usage consumption pattern. So unfortunately in entire world, not only just in India but in entire world, there are more mobile phones than toilet. And as I've spoken that there are 6.3 billion people who have access to water. So 4 billion access through taps, while 2.3 billion access through well or public sources. But they might become unpotable sometimes because the problem of washing of clothes and other chemicals leaks, so that like different chemicals mix into them and it becomes unpotable. Unpotable means that it is not fit for drinking. Potable water means fit for drinking, that is it is free for virus, bacteria, disease causing organisms. It has like very tasteless, odorless, or that kind of water I'm talking about. Now every minute one child died due to water related diseases in entire world. This is not just true of developing countries but mostly like Africa, Asia, sub-Saharan Africa, that region. It's not seen in developed countries. And this include diarrhea, cholera, etc. 130 to 150 million hours each day of entire humanity goes in time spent in collection of water. Can you just imagine if you are asked to collect water every day? Those of you are listening to this lesson, obviously you will not be doing this, but like wasting 4 hours. Women travels 30 kilometers in Jaisalmer and places like that in Africa to collect water. They are not educating themselves, they are not spending time on their health, they are not spending time in recreation. Now if you spend on water and sanitation $1, you get $40 in return. So the 4 times return is there. So you should like, this is the, that is why government spends so much on this. And like talking about water expenditure, you can like deal with lots and lots of stuff. Like you can educate yourself better, you will not have health problems, you'll have better outcomes, you will not visit physicians, so your spending power will increase and other stuff, etc. Now if there is 100% of the water, then out of that 96.5% is in saline water in ocean. 1% roughly or 0.9% is other saline water, which is saline but not in ocean. Now what is saline? When the salt concentration is roughly 35 parts per thousand. Okay. So now fresh water is 2.5%. And like out of this 2.5%, 68% is in glaciers and ice caps, while 30% is in groundwater and 1.2% is surface or other waters. Out of this 1.2%, 0.9%, that is 70%, is in ground ice or permanently frozen, while rest 0.3% mainly is in lakes, soil moisture, swamps, rivers, living things and atmosphere. So I hope you got this conversion. I'll again teach you this thing. So as I was saying that 97.5% of the entire water is saline, okay, having 35 parts per thousand salt. Out of that 96.5% is in ocean, 0.9% is other saline water, 2.5% is fresh water which does not have much salt, that is 1/10 less, that is the definition. And out of this 2.5%, 68.7% is in glaciers, 30% is in groundwater. Okay, so rest 1.2% out of this is 0.3% is surface water and 0.9% is other water. So 1.2% again I have divided into 70% is ground ice or permafrost, 21% lakes. This is very important. Questions are asked from this. 3.8% soil moisture, 3.83% atmosphere, 2.6% marshes, 0.5% rivers, 0.25% living beings. And out of this 0.3% surface water, lakes have 84%. If you are talking about this 0.3, swamps make 11%, rivers 2%. Now another classification is 96.5% is seas, 1.7% groundwater, 1.7% glaciers, and less than 1% is large water bodies, and 0.001% is water vapor. So this is a separate classification and this is a separate classification. So either of them can be asked. So as I have already spoken, so 96.5% is saline, 2.5% is fresh water, and 0.9% is other saline water. And out of that, mainly the 2.5% fresh water is ice caps and glaciers and groundwater, and the surface water is again divided into lakes, swamps and rivers. This is just 0.3%. So here you can see the largest cubes are basically of oceans, again 96.5%. Then you have mainly the ground ice, which is 0.02% here. Fresh groundwater is 0.76%, and the ice cap and glaciers is 1.74%, and 0.9% is saline groundwater. The biological water in entire humanity and all the animals and plants and everything is just 0.00001%, this small red dot. Now fresh water does not mean it's potable water, you cannot drink it, and flood happens if there is excessive rainfall like cloudburst, etc. And if it does not rain adequately, it may lead to drought, lowering of groundwater, soil might become dry, water becomes scarce. All this is very common sense. And conservation is of prime importance, so minimize the use as soon as possible. You collect it, store the rainwater where there is relative lack of water. This process called as rainwater harvesting. Now what is rooftop rainwater? So basically roofs, through it goes to pipes, then storage tank, then filter, then use, then recharging of groundwater. So this is how you recharge the groundwater. Now what is water cycle? I'll just go through it quickly. Circulation of water between ocean and land, like via different states like evaporation, condensation, vapor, solid, liquid. Evaporation needs energy and you receive it in form of heat. It happens at all the temperature, not at 100 degrees Celsius. If it is sunlight, if the air is warm and it is not just boiling, okay, just before that evaporation happens, and from all the open surfaces containing water. People think that only it happens at boiling, but that is wrong. Even at 25 degrees Celsius you will see water will go away. Open surface is must, because otherwise water will not go away. Now transpiration through stomata of plant leaves is again a form of evaporation. Condensation is whenever water vapor encounters a cold temperature so that it freezes down and form droplets. That is condensation. It also happens in the formation of clouds. So precipitation is outcome or condensation of water vapors in atmosphere and happens because of gravity. When they become too heavy, they fall. So these are the main type of, like drizzle is like 0.5, less than 0.5 mm, liquid raindrops. Rain, obviously you know. Sleet is basically mixture of rain plus partially melted snow. Now snow is crystalline water ice with having granular material. Graupel is a German word which is like snowflake plus super cooled water droplets of 2 to 5 mm. And hail is basically ओले जिनको बोलते हैं हिंदी में, that is solid precipitation, hailstone, which are 0.5 to 15 centimeter. It can really damage the crops and surrounding structure. So you know oceans having condensation, then with the help of evaporation, evapotranspiration, all this goes into the atmosphere and finally in the form of precipitation it comes down, then the runaway water, and finally it reaches again here. So this is more or less the water cycle. And returning to the source, land is usually above mean sea level, so through gravity water goes back to sea and ocean, and all this leads to directly returning to the ocean. Groundwater storage happens a lot of times, so with the help of wells, tube wells, you can take off. Runoff happens when the vegetation is less, so people always say that grow trees for prevention of soil erosion. And rainfall can have like quantity as well as spatial and temporal variation. It can be less somewhere, more somewhere. For example, temporal variation means 3 to 4 months of monsoon, that is June to September, large majority of rainfall happens. And if you place clothes, they will dry faster because of the air. So, and water drops are visible after you take out of cold water because they condense, and same phenomena happens when we try to clean our spectacle. So thank you for watching this lesson. Have an awesome day. Guys, what's up? So this is the last lesson in class 6 science NCERT chapter 15. I have already covered chapter 16 earlier. This is the lesson number 9 presented by me, Roman Saini. And if you feel like these courses are helping in any way, you can just click on the contribute button and leave a voluntary fee. And you can also follow me on Unacademy on unacademy.in/user/Roman Saini, and you can watch all the lessons made by me there. Now let's talk about air around us. So basically air is everywhere, all around us in water, soil, surroundings except space and vacuum. And moving air is also called as wind. Basic definition. How will you know that air occupies space? Just try to use an empty bottle. Empty means it is filled with air, nothing else. Try to push it in water with its mouth down and you'll feel a lot of resistance because water will try to replace air, so you'll feel the pressure. Obviously it has no color, it is transparent completely. A thin layer of air is surrounding the entire earth, and it is called as atmosphere. Now, why do mountaineers carry oxygen cylinders with them while climbing high mountains? It is because that the air is very thin in the high atmosphere, so mountaineers need to carry it, otherwise they will die because there is not much enough air to breathe. Okay, especially after 4 kilometers of height. And same things goes that we need pressurized air when we go down, because like we need special suits also, otherwise the atmospheric pressure will kill us if we are, let's say, beyond 10, 20, 30 meters in atmosphere in the ocean. Now air is basically a mixture of water vapor, oxygen, obviously everybody knows. I'll show you the experiment later. And it is a mixture of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, dust and smoke. How does it not enter our respiratory system? But it is prevented by fine hair and mucus in our nostrils. Now take two glasses, one bigger than the other, and invert them over a burning candle. Very simple experiment. And like tumbler with some water, mark the water level. Okay. So when the oxygen will be consumed, so that air will be reduced, so water will replace it. So candle will stop burning first in the smaller glass because oxygen is less in that, because that is why it is smaller. Now space occupied by oxygen is filled by water and water level will rise, but largely the space will not be changed because nitrogen makes up almost 78% and it is not consumed in burning. Now already spoken, mucus and fine air present in nose prevent the dust particles from entering respiratory system. So this is the composition of dry atmosphere. It does not include water vapors. This will not change in next 100 to 1000 years hopefully. Nitrogen is 78.08%, oxygen is almost 21%, argon is 0.93%, carbon dioxide is 0.03 to 0.04, neon is 0.001, helium is 0.0005, and methane is 0.4 Now water vapor, because of strong local variation and humidity and rainfall, it can vary from 0.001 to 5%. That is why we have not included it, because air is dry, and 0.25% is the water vapor overall earthwise. Now atmospheric layers are, these are the main layers. Troposphere is 0 to 12 kilometers, which is 9 kilometers at pole and 17 at equator, so something like this. The top layer is called as tropopause, stratopause, mesopause, thermopause, exopause. Stratosphere is 12 to 50 kilometers, contain ozone. Mesosphere is 50 to 80 kilometers, thermosphere is 80 to 700, and exosphere is 700 to 10,000 kilometers. After that starts space. Now tropos means turned, so like Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, because sun turns like this. That is why they are called as tropos. It extends from Earth's surface till tropopause. The temperature above is minus 60 degrees Celsius, and it is followed mostly by temperature inversion. That is, warm becomes cold, or it is by isothermal zone, that is the temperature remains same, but usually the temperature is inverted. Now temperature as a rule of thumb will fall with increasing altitude unless the specific phenomena is happening. Cool. Now heating occurs from surface and above, so here the temperature will be, let's say, 25-30 degrees Celsius, but here it will be minus 60 degrees Celsius. Now 6 kilometers from our surface, 50% of the atmospheric mass lies just in the 5.6 kilometers from our surface, and 80% of entire atmospheric mass lies in the troposphere, so it means it is very dense. And almost all the water vapor, all the hailstorm, thunderstorm, rain, clouds, almost all of them happens in the troposphere. And aircraft, especially the propeller based aircraft, they cannot go beyond troposphere. Now let's talk about stratosphere. It extends from tropopause to stratopause. Ozone is present here, which absorbs the ultraviolet rays. Usually it absorbs ultraviolet C and B, not ultraviolet A. And temperature rises with altitude because of absorption of ultraviolet rays. So here the rule of thumb is inverted because of specific phenomena. Now free of air turbulence, so that is why it is also called as ozonosphere. There is no air turbulence, there is no, because you are beyond the storms and clouds, etc. It is highest layer for aircraft, specifically the jet powered ones. And some clouds like polar, stratospheric or nacreous clouds form above tropopause, so this question might be asked. Now mesosphere is from stratopause to mesopause, and it is the coldest place on earth without a doubt. Minus 85 degrees Celsius average. As I have already spoken, temperature falls as altitude rise, just like troposphere, unless some specific phenomena is happening. Now water vapor will sublime, that is it will come solid and form noctilucent clouds, which are the highest clouds in atmosphere. This is important. Most of the meteors which come from outer space will burn here, and it is obviously too high for aircrafts. Aircrafts cannot go like above 50 kilometers, and it is too low for satellites because it will not cover the entire range, and it is accessible by sounding rockets. Now thermosphere is from mesopause to thermopause or exobase, whatever you want to call it. Its lower half is called as ionosphere, and temperature rises up to 1500 degrees Celsius, but you will not feel the heat. You will not feel the heat because the density of molecule is so low that because of extreme rarefaction, the temperature is not meaningful in the term of hotness. You might be knowing PV is equals to nRT, so using that equation you can find out, but that's not important. And if skin comes in contact with thermosphere, the pressure is so low that temperature transfer of energy will not happen, and you will not feel hot despite very high temperature. Now it is absolutely free of water vapors, hence it is absolutely cloudless. This is important. Sometimes they ask this question. Mesosphere mein there might be clouds, but not here. An international space station is located here, 320 to 380 kilometers above our surface. And aurora borealis, that is called northern lights and southern lights, aurora australis, beautiful blue green lights, they happen here. The natural lights which are seen in higher altitude due to ionization, as I've already spoken, and interaction of thermopause or exobase with magnetospheric plasma. This is important, and cosmic rays and solar wind, all this phenomena happens here. That is why you see beautiful colors. Now exosphere is the outermost one. Exobase is the upper limit of thermosphere to merging with emptiness of outer space up to 10,000 kilometers. Extremely thin, obviously it's just like space with ultra low density of hydrogen, helium, nitrogen, water, carbon dioxide. There is no meteorological phenomena here. Most satellites will orbit here. They will not go into space, but here. Now aurora aurealis plus aurora like australis and borealis may overlap in the upper part of the thermosphere. As I've already spoken, they might extend to exosphere also. Now this stratosphere plus mesosphere plus lower thermosphere is the middle atmosphere. This is sometimes they ask. Now this is aurora aurealis and borealis. Borealis means north, australis means south. Now as I've already spoken, this is exosphere. As you can see, like space shuttles are here on the upper portion of thermopause. This is auroras here, like you can see these polar mesospheric or noctilucent clouds in mesopause, polar stratospheric or nacreous clouds in stratosphere, troposphere mein you can see commercial airliner, and all these things you can just like go through them once. Sometimes they may ask this ozone layer is present in stratosphere. These are important. This is called as Kármán line. Okay, this point above 100 kilometers. Now international space station is obviously, as I was spoken, like this is the exobase 350. It's roughly in the thermosphere, lower thermosphere. Now air will help in obviously photosynthesis, respiration, windmill like generation of electricity, movement of sailing, etc., pollinating agent. So these are the 5 main uses of air, like if you want to write somewhere. Now put water in soil, you will see bubbles coming out. Burrows and holes will enrich soils and underground, that is why animals can live there. Plants are net producer of air, and hence they replenish oxygen. They generate more in photosynthesis and consume less in respiration. And interdependence for exchange between plants and animals for oxygen and carbon dioxide is there. Now why earthworms comes out of soil in heavy rains? Because water will displace dissolved oxygen, and hence they have to come out, they have no option. Now how will you show that air is dissolved in water? Just boil it and you will see bubbles of air coming out. And why does a lump of cotton wool shrink in water? Because air which is present is replaced by water, that is why it shrinks. So this is the entire class 6 NCERT summary. I hope you enjoyed this course. Let me know if you want me to make any other course. Thank you for watching this lesson. Have an awesome day.